Hi, Ivan. How are you?
I am doing great, Vishen. Great to talk to you.
So, thank you for joining us today. Now, you're going to be sharing a number of the models and the systems in your life that have made you one of the most influential men in business networking. I know BNI is in about 60 countries. And how many different members do you have in this organization you founded?
We have about 180,000 members worldwide.
That's incredible. And as Chief Visionary Officer, you are genuinely playing a role in helping these entrepreneurs connect and grow their businesses.
That's right. Last year, the organization passed 6.6 million referrals, and we generated for our members worldwide 8.6 billion, that's billion with a B, $8.6 billion worth of business for the members all around the world, all through referrals and word of mouth.
That's incredible. So those of you who are listening, what I want you to keep in mind is that the man you're hearing from, Ivan, isn't just chief visionary leader of BNI. He founded BNI, and
Yes.
so he basically started an organization that has 180,000 entrepreneurs connected to each other all around the world, helping support each other. It's one of the largest business networking organizations on the entire planet. So the man you're listening to right now, although you may not have heard of him, he is a legend to the people that he leads. Now, Ivan, I always start every conversation with a simple question so we can get to know you better. What gets you out of bed every morning?
You know what? Honestly, things like this. My role with the company now is to be the spokesperson for the organization, to help with the strategic planning, but really to be the face of the organization and to do interviews like this. I think an entrepreneur is either working in their wax or working in their flame. When they're working in their flame, they're on fire. They're excited. They love what they do. They're passionate about it. And when they're working in their wax, it saps their energy. It takes away all of their energy. And so for me, my goal is to be working more on the business than in the business, to be working on my flame and having an opportunity to do interviews and to write. That's my flame. I love doing it. And I appreciate the invitation here today.
I love that metaphor that you just shared with us, working in the flame or the wax. It reminds me of the book, Four Disciplines of Execution, that talks about working in the whirlwind or being able
Yeah.
to step aside every now and then and be able to grow your business.
Hmm.
So actually, those of you listening, what you just heard is a beautiful model to think about in terms of how you are working on a day-to-day basis. Ivan, you have three models of reality that you're going to be sharing with us and four systems for living. Now, the three models of reality, the first one is scarcity mentality. And what you say is that a lot of people believe that it's about competition and success
Yeah.
is about getting as much as you can. You say that's not true. Let's start with that model. Tell us about that.
Yeah, listen, I've lived my life with that not being true. I think that all too often I see people who have this scarcity mentality, this idea that success is about getting as much as you can, that there's not enough to go around. And I think that successful people really need to some extent, let that dissolve because you don't have to compete with everyone to be successful. Give you an example of what I mean. As you've described, I run a business networking organization, and as I travel around the world, people, when they see BNI operate, they say, "Well, this networking thing that you've done, it's so American." And I say, "This is the least American thing I have ever done in my life." And they'll say, "I don't get it. What do you mean?" Well, when you think of American corporations, do you think of support, help, cooperation, collaboration? Do you think of our core philosophy as an organization as givers gain? Givers gain. That if you want to get business from people, you have to be willing to give business to people. And so when you think of American companies, do you think of givers gain? No. When you think of American companies, you think of competition, dog eat dog. I'm going to put that guy out of business. And so I think that this scarcity mentality exists worldwide and certainly is something that is prevalent in the United States. And I believe that it's a model of reality that can be broken, that can be dissolved, and that you, through collaboration, can, in effect, build a solid and successful business.
That reminds me of something I once heard from Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan is an entrepreneurial coach. Are you familiar with Dan Sullivan's work,
I am,
Ivan?
yes.
So I was listening to one of Dan's audios recently, and he talks about the core DNA of being American. He says he calls it rugged individualism. He says he really believes in that. He says in America, people are trained from the time they are birthed to be rugged individuals, to go out there and create for themselves and live on the land by themselves and not to have to rely on everyone. But he says there's an issue with that. Rugged individualism only works to most people, he's found, up to a certain age. At a certain age, when you hit 35, and he used the number 35, he says many men and women certainly find that they hit the ceiling of complexity. All of a sudden, they are juggling their business, they are juggling taxes, they are juggling their relationships, they are juggling having kids. And all of a sudden, being a rugged individualist no longer works. You need to collaborate, you need to outsource, you need to forge partnerships. Would you agree with this?
I would agree with that completely. I think that a lot of successful people have an element of that rugged individualism in them. That's what, in effect, I believe in some ways that helps make someone a real leader. But that if you stop there, if you want to be a whole person or whole individual, that the truth is you have to work with others. You have to collaborate. And I think I learned that early on. As a matter of fact, I've got this right here. When I was a young boy, my mother gave me this. And it says, diplomacy is the art of letting someone else have your way. And I was so much a rugged individualist that, I was in control. And my mom would say to me, son, you got to learn how to work with people. If you don't learn how to work with people, you're just going to bowl them over and you're never going to be a good leader. And she gave that to me, and I've kept it, it's given to me 40 years ago. And I've kept it all these years. And what it's taught me is that you have to work with people, not through people. And if you want to be a leader, that means you have to learn how to collaborate and work with others. You can't do it all on your own.
I absolutely believe in what you're saying. I've met many people who are out there trying to create their dream, whether it's a book or whether it's launching a successful blog, to people with more challenging dreams, starting a 100-person company, making their first 10 million in revenue. But almost in every situation, I've found, and I've heard from these people as well, that they really found that their paths got easier when they started networking, when they started collaborating and masterminding. The same was true for me. See, I started Mindvalley in New York, but I had to leave the US. I had visa issues. It was after September 11. It was really hard for a brown, unshaven person like myself to be able to get a visa for America after September 11. So I had to move from New York to Malaysia. And all of a sudden I was lonely. Malaysia is where I was born, but I hadn't lived here in a decade. All my friends were in America. And I faced an issue. I couldn't connect with great minds, so I did everything I could. I started doing brain exchanges. So I would find other entrepreneurs at my level who did something that I thought was really good, and I would just reach out to them through email and say, hey, look, can we get on Skype? I love what you've done with this aspect of your website. Check out my website. I did this really well. How about we spend an hour together? I give you 30 minutes of advice. You give me 30 minutes of advice. And that's how I built my connections. And that's how I started learning. And I learned more from that, Ivan, than so many books I read. And then as I got older, I thought I should start a networking organization. So I started Awesomeness Fest. Now, Awesomeness Fest, actually, I started it as a way for me to get on stage and teach my stuff to people. But what happened was that the people who came there started telling me that they learned so much more from networking, from meeting other individuals there, that became the focus. Today, half of the event is just getting people to connect with each other. Now, sorry, go on.
No, I believe that. I believe the sum of the whole is greater than the individual parts, that by everyone working together, you can achieve so much more than trying to work individually. And I see that all of the time in in networks. I have this concept that I've written about called the squared connection effect. And what happens is that in BNI, we have these groups of people who get together and they pass referrals. And what we found is that when you double your size, you triple or quadruple the referrals. Well, the reason for that is this squared connection effect. When you have 16 people working together, you have what amounts to about 256 connections. Those 16 people connected to each other is about 256 individual connections. But here's where it gets really interesting. When you have 32 people, you have 1,024 connections. So you get this squared connection effect that the more people that you have in your network, it squares the number of connections or interrelationships that you have. And so what you do is you open up the possibility for more information, knowledge, and collaboration by having a certain size network that you can draw upon for advice and help. And that's why going to events like you're talking about is so valuable, because it increases your ability to have effective collaboration.
Ivan, now I know later on, as we go beyond models, we're going to be talking about systems for living. Will you be sharing any systems and how people can actually reach out and forge these connections?
Absolutely. I'll be talking about something that I call a VCP process, which is core to what I teach.
Wonderful. So I can't wait till we get there. Now there's a second idea that you spoke about, and it's a second model of reality that you wanted to share with our audience. And what you said is, there's a secret to success that no one knows about. That's a common myth. You said that's a myth. It's false. There is no secret to success. Tell us about that.
So I did a book called Masters of Success a number of years ago, and I really found out something very interesting. When I started to do the book, I first went to really successful business professionals, really well-known people, people like Aaron Brockovich and Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut, very successful business people, and I asked them, what's the secret to success? And they generally told me things like, passion, goals, vision, creating systems, people skills, social capital kinds of skills. Those are the kinds of things they answered, and all made sense to me. And these were really successful people. So then I went to the average business person, people that were in BNI and people like that. And I asked them, what's it take to be successful? What's the secret to success? And they said, passion, goals, vision, system, social capital. It's the same list. I thought, wow, that's really interesting. Here's the average business person, really successful, big names, same list. Well, at the time I was teaching at university, State University in California. And so I started asking these college kids, what's the secret to success? And you know what they told me? Passion, goals, vision, system. They gave me the exact same list with one exception. They did have one exception. They said luck. So the college kids thought luck had something to do with success. I believe the harder you work, the luckier you get. And so that was the only thing. Other than that, the really successful people, the average business person, and even the college kids gave me the exact same list. And that's where I came up with this concept, and it's in the book, that success is the uncommon application of common knowledge. Success is the uncommon application of common knowledge. That most of the things that it takes to be successful are pretty much understood in general. You understand that the secret to success without hard work is still a secret. You know, it takes hard work to become successful. I think most people know that. They just don't know how to apply that. And so success is the uncommon application of common knowledge. Let's take my business, networking. Did I create something new? No. Networking has been around for centuries. All I did was take a concept and apply a different spin to it, a different twist to it, a few concepts put together and applied consistently, and I created something amazing. But I didn't come up with something completely new. It was networking. I mean, people have been doing it for centuries, yet I've had great success with it.
Success is the uncommon application
Of common knowledge.
of common knowledge. Can you give us an idea of how we could, is there a model, is there a system where the average person could apply this in their life?
Yeah, first of all, I would have college kids come to me all the time and say, Dr. Meisner, what's the newest business I should be going in where I can apply these concepts that you're talking about so I can be successful? And I would always ask them, and so I'm answering your question the way I would answer some of these college kids. I would ask them, what are you passionate about? And they'd say, no, that's not my question. My question is, what's the greatest business? What's the latest business I should get in? And I'd say, yeah, okay, I get it. What are you passionate about? What are you really excited about? And so I even had one kid say to me once, Dr. Meisner, you're not listening to me. And I said, no, I am listening to you. You're not listening to me. What are you passionate about? And then I explained, look, whatever business I'm about to tell you, if I tell you that and you're not passionate about it, you're not going to be successful. So it has to be an area in your life that you're passionate about. So the answer to your question begins with somebody has to ask themselves, what are they passionate about? What are they really passionate about? What's their flame? Because if I give you an answer that's your wax, it's not going to do you any good at all. And so what's your flame? And so the answer really is that you have to think about aspects of your business that have something that would be your flame. And so I don't know your business, but you could take that business and take some aspect of that interest that you have and make that a flame and turn that into a business. And so it's making that thing that you're doing and that you're excited about and doing it in an uncommon way that makes you stand out. And that differs from business to business.
Well said. Sense? Absolutely, well said. So a previous person I interviewed on this program, his name is Tom Chi. And Tom Chi was the co-founder of Google X. It's Larry Page's secret lab that he was the first guy who built the Google Glass. So I was listening to an interview by Tom Chi as I was preparing for my interview with him. And Tom Chi said something very interesting. He said there are two kinds of people in the world. And this reminded me of what you said, Ivan, about the flame and the wax. He said there are people who after work come home and they have to sit in front of the TV and pour themselves a glass of wine and just relax because their work was so grueling. And then there are people who come back from work and they're bouncing and they're excited because their work is so exciting and what they want to do, they want to pick up a book and read about how to get better at their work, how to be a better writer, how to be a better manager, because they can't wait to wake up in the morning and go back to work. Now, obviously, all of you listening can tell which is the person in the wax and which is the person in the flame. And you'll hear this. People hear this over and over and over and over and over and over again. But people still end up committing themselves to work that sucks the life out of them. Yeah. And I think what you said is really true, and really glad that you asked those college kids, what are you passionate about? Because the reality of the world is, I believe this, what college tells you need to do to get out there and get a job isn't always the best advice. When I was in college, my professor asked me, what do you want to do? And I was studying computer engineering because my parents really wanted me to go into software because they felt that is what I need to do to make money. What I wanted to do, I wanted to teach martial arts. I was crazy about two things, martial arts and meditation. My professor told me, Vishen, you are going to fail when you open your martial arts studio. How are you going to make money? Well, I didn't open a martial arts studio. I went and I joined Microsoft. And I hated it. And I hated it so much, I got fired in 11 weeks. Now, I bummed around for a while, working for nonprofits, working for a technology company. Then I never found happiness until I started practicing and teaching meditation in New York in 2002. And now, and everyone there told me, you can't make money in meditation. I'm glad you're happy, but Vishen, you're about to get married. And back then I was about to marry my girlfriend. And they said, how are you going to make money? How are you going to survive? How are you going to raise your kids here in New York? Well, right now I still sell meditation. I'm still in the same business, but I have 200 employees. And I've become one of the biggest promoters of meditation in the world because every single day I follow my passion. And I did it exactly the way you said, Ivan. I found an unusual application of common knowledge.
That's exactly my point. And if you tell somebody, come up with something different relating to meditation, they may or may not know where to begin. But that's the key,
Right.
is you take that common idea and you do something uncommon with it that makes you stand out.
Right. And I want to toss in another model of reality that I think can build upon this. See, a lot of people, when they start thinking about, well, how am I going to find an uncommon application of common knowledge? They forget that as human beings, we don't get information from our logical conscious minds. I believe in intuition. I believe that,
Yes.
now whether you believe it's some mystical ability or whether you believe it's subconscious pattern recognition, doesn't matter, but there is a way your brain tends to come up with creative problems. What I found and what I believe is that your brain functions best on this when you're enjoying yourself, when you're in the state of flow, when you're having fun. Now, for those of you listening, if you're working in a crappy job that you hated, that was stressing you out, you aren't going to get creative. But you focus on what you're passionate about, whether it's
Yeah.
designing t-shirts or teaching meditation, because you love it, the ideas start flowing. And that's when you get those aha moments to find those uncommon applications.
Very true. It also helps, and we hadn't talked about this before, but it also helps, I think, to understand what your emotionally charged connection is. You familiar with that?
No,
That
please
term?
tell us.
Well, your emotionally charged connection is it's sort of the answer to why you do what you do. And if you don't fully understand, or if you're not in touch with why you do what you do, then you don't really, you don't quite fulfill your destiny in business as well as you could. And it took me years to figure out my ECC. When people used to say, why did you start BNI? Well, it was because I was looking for referrals for my consulting practice. And that was the superficial answer. That was at the top. But the truth is, I am in business because of my ECC, my emotionally charged connection, which goes back actually to high school. See if I can do it real quick. I was in high school. I had, in junior high, I had run for student council every year for 2-3 years. Lost every time. Didn't just lose, I was decimated. It wasn't just decimated, I was last. I mean, it was an embarrassment. And so by the time I was in high school, I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. And so I had no intention of running for student council. And so I'm in freshman high school. The high school teacher says, who would like to be the student council representative? Because we picked them out of the history class, this class. Nobody volunteered. One girl even stood up and she said, oh, Mr. Romero, I would do it, but I'm so busy. I can't volunteer for it. He was like, oh, okay, fine, thanks. I appreciate that. And he said, is there any volunteers? And nobody volunteered. And he said, well, if there's no volunteer, I get to pick. Are you okay with that? And the class would say, yeah, pick whoever you want. We don't care. And he said, you're sure? They said, yes. He said, he looked around and he saw me and he said, Ivan, I bet you'd like to do this, wouldn't you? And I said, well, yeah, Mr. Romero, I kind of would like to do it. And he said, all right, Ivan's the student council representative. The entire class, Vishen, no joke, the entire class went, oh, not Ivan. Anybody but Ivan. Even the girl who said she was too busy stood up and said, oh, Mr. Romero, if you're going to pick Ivan, I'll do it. I'll do it. And so now, people chuckle, but you got to think, I was 13 years old, was a young boy, hadn't had much success at anything I'd done. It was really emotional to have an entire class, to lose every single election and then have an entire class say, oh, look, if you're going to pick him, we'll do it. We don't want this guy to do it. And so, I had no crystal ball to see what I, as a young boy, would evolve into. I was just where I was, and it was embarrassing, and it was brutal to have that happen. But somebody saw something in me who picked me and gave me an opportunity. That same class, by the way, at the end of the year, I did something I promised I would never do again, run for student council. and I won in that same class,
Wow.
and I won every year thereafter, including I was ASB president in my last year, and and it all started with this one man who saw something in me and gave me an opportunity to succeed. And it wasn't until decades later that I realized I lived that over and over and over again in my professional career. In every company I have started has been about giving other people an opportunity to succeed. I can't make anyone successful. I can't make you successful. I can't make anyone successful, but I can give them an opportunity. I can give them the process. I can give them the system. I can give them the chance to make it happen. And there, it's up to them. And it took me a long time to realize that I am living that over and over and over. And when you understand your emotionally charged connection, a lot of things kind of come into a lot of things just click in your life into understanding who you are and why you do what you do.
What exactly is the ECC, the emotionally charged connection? Was it the memory of Mr. Romero calling on you? Or was it you replicating that?
It was the emotionally charged connection is that the businesses I have formed are businesses that help people fulfill their potential. Mm-hmm. Give people an opportunity, which is the connection to what Mr. Romero did to me when I was 13 years old. He gave me the opportunity. He saw something in me and said, I think you can do it. I believe in you. I believe you can do it. And he gave it to me, which for no good reason. You know, the entire class didn't want me to do it. But he saw something and he gave me that opportunity. And then that's all I wanted. I just wanted a chance. I just wanted an opportunity. And he gave it to me and I ran with it. And I realized that the businesses I created, almost every single business I have created in my life, has been a business that gives someone else an opportunity. And I never put those two together until a few years ago.
I see. So it's up to us to figure out what is our ECC.
It is. And I think that when you do, it becomes an epiphany. It becomes, it's a way to sort of round off your professional career in terms of understanding why you do the things that you do. And sometimes they're not healthy. Sometimes the things you do aren't healthy and you're repeating that. Other times they are healthy. And it's good to understand that and to understand where you're coming from. And by talking to other people about why you do the things you do, you make a connection with them as well. Because most people have had some kind of experience, even if that's not their ECC, they've had that kind of experience where someone's given them a chance. And it humanizes you in your relationship to other people you're doing business with. They understand, you know, they can almost visualize me as a 13-year-old boy going through that and make a connection to themselves.
That's beautiful. I really like that idea. I was reading a biography of Richard Branson. It's a book called Bold, and it had stories of different entrepreneurs. And I'm beginning to see something now. Many of the entrepreneurs mentioned in that book, Bold by Peter Diamandis, seem to have their ECC. With Richard Branson, I remember reading a story in the book about how every business he did had to have fun, had to have an element of fun into it. He wouldn't do anything unless it was fun. The book had a funny story about how when he ran Virgin Music and he decided he wanted to start an airline because airlines back then, according to him, sucked. His proposal to his team was, hey guys, let's start an airline. Even if we fail, it's going to be fun. So would you say that that's an example of an ECC?
Absolutely, and I've heard him talk about that. I've met Branson a couple of times, and I've heard him tell that story. And I think that is a great example of an ECC. He probably has something that goes back into his, if not childhood, younger years, where he either didn't have fun or he experienced something that was really a lot of fun, and that's where he's making his connection to that time. And it's usually in your teens or before that you make that connection.
That's a fascinating idea. I'm going to have to start thinking about what mine is. Now let's go on to this other model that you were going to share. This is the third and final model. Now, what you were going to tell us about is, and this is great because we're going to get to know a little bit about you and how you became such a master networker. You said there's a belief, and an impression about networking that it's about selling.
Yeah.
It's not what you know. It's not what you know, it's who you know, and that's not completely true either.
Yeah, you know the expression, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Hmm.
I don't believe it's either what you know or who you know. I think it's how well you know each other that really counts. It's about going deep and building a relationship with other people. If your network is a mile wide and an inch deep, it's not going to be a very powerful network. Your network has to be both wide and deep in order to be successful. And what happens is that people turn networking into a face-to-face cold calling opportunity. So they walk around and they go, "Hi, Vishen, my name's Ivan, let's do business." And before there's any kind of relationship, they try to make a sale. I did a keynote at an event in London with almost 1,000 people. And I said, "How many of you are here today?" Raise your hands. How many of you are here today? I asked the audience, hoping to maybe just possibly sell something. Vishen, 1,000 people raised their hands. Everybody raised their hand. I said, "Great, thanks." Now, second question, how many of you are here today hoping, maybe just possibly to buy something? Raise your hands. No one raised their hands. Not one single person. This is what I call the networking disconnect. Everybody shows up to networking events wanting to sell, but nobody's there to buy. And when that happens, I constantly see these articles come out that networking doesn't work, networking fails, networking's not good. Networking works great. You just have to learn how to network right. And networking right's about building relationships. It's about going deep and building relationships. And so if you show up at a networking event and you're just trying to sell, that's bad networking. That's like saying sales doesn't work. Sales works. It depends on how you do it. If you're really bad at it, it'll fail. If you do it wrong, it'll fail. But if you do sales right, it works. If you do networking right, it works, and it works great, because networking should all be about building relationships, not direct selling.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, Ivan.
Yeah.
And that wraps up a section of the program where we basically get into your head, Ivan, and try to understand your models of the world and how you see the world. Thank you for those. Those are some pretty powerful models. So let me recap for everyone listening. There was the scarcity mentality. And you say that that is not true. Success is not about getting as much as you can. Success is not about competition. It's about collaboration. And that's a model of the world that we should all adopt. Second, you said that there is no secret to success. There's no one particular thing that you have to learn to be successful. Success is simply the uncommon application of common knowledge. And we talked about how people could think up uncommon applications of what they already know. Third, you spoke about networking, and you shared your model of reality on networking. It's not about selling. It's about depth of connection and creating deep relationships. Thank you for that, Ivan.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Now, in this next section, we're going to have Ivan share with us a number of the systems for living that he's adapted in his life to become the man he is. And we're going to start with this one. The name is really interesting: harmony versus balance.
Yeah, so a lot of people that I talk to, they look at me and they assume I'm a workaholic. I have almost 3,000 people who work for my company. We're in 60 countries. And I tell them I'm absolutely not a workaholic. As a matter of fact, I say to them, don't believe me. Never believe a man who says he's not a workaholic. Ask his wife. And so I have people go ask Beth. You've met Beth. And I have people go ask Beth, is Ivan a workaholic? And she tells them the truth. She says, absolutely not. He works really, really hard, but it definitely takes time off. And so when I'm talking to an audience, I'll say, would you like the secret to balance in life? And people are like, yeah, of course. So here's the secret to balance, Vishen. Forget about balance. You'll never have it. It's impossible to have balance, I think. Because I'm an entrepreneur. I work crazy long hours. However, I think if you want to have a healthy life, that you have to have harmony. There has to be harmony in your life. And this is more than semantics. I work crazy long hours and my life is way out of balance. So when I have time off, I make sure to take time off. I mean, fully off. I'm a real believer in three words. They guide much of my life. Be here now. Be here now. Wherever you are, be there. So don't be at work thinking about the fact that you didn't spend time with the kids last night, playing with them, and beating yourself up at work because you didn't spend time with the kids. When you're at home with the kids, don't be thinking about the office. Oh, I've got this project at the office, and I really shouldn't be doing this right now with the kids. I should be there. Wherever you are, be present. Be fully and completely present. And if you are fully and completely present, that's the first step to having harmony in your life. You may have a life that's out of balance, but you can have a life that's in harmony. I travel a lot. I mean, last year was probably more than most, but most years I'm on the road every other week. Now, when you're raising a family, and my kids are all grown up now, when you're raising a family, that can be really tough on the family, and it can be tough on your spouse. And I remember when my son was 17 years old, I said to him, Trey, do you feel like, was I there enough for you? Was I present for you enough? And he looked at me like I was completely insane. And he said, yeah, you were there all the time. I said, well, I wasn't there all the time. I travel almost every other week. I'm on the road. He's like, yeah. I said, so I was traveling. How could I be there? He said, well, because whenever you're there, you're like, you're there. You're fully there. I didn't feel like you weren't paying attention.
Wow.
And so, and I thought that was my goal, was to have a life that might be a little bit out of balance, but it is fully harmonious, or as harmonious as possible. And there are some other things that I talk about to have a life that's in harmony. I think you can be successful. Your life can be a little bit out of balance, but you can have a life that's in harmony.
Ivan, that is beautiful. That's a big epiphany, because I hear so many people telling me all the time, I work too hard. I work 10 to 12-hour days, but I absolutely love it. And I've heard so many people talk about balance, like go for a 35 to 40-hour work week, make sure you have enough time doing this and that. And I just realized that I know this is supposed to be a system, but really you just warped a model in my head that I'd never really questioned. You're right, balance doesn't seem to make any sense. It's really about being in the now, being fully present with whatever you're doing. And
when
I realized,
you're talking about balance, you're doing exactly what you're saying. You need to spend this amount of time working and this amount of time. And if you're not, then you're out of balance. Let it go.
Right, absolutely. And when I heard you speak about that, it started bringing back to mind so many concepts I read in books such as The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, or studies and books on mindfulness, all of which say one of the greatest things we can do for our health is being in the now, being fully present in the now, whether it's meditating and focusing on our breath, or just really in mindfulness practices, looking at the wood grains on a table and really paying attention, like what I'm doing right now to this desk I'm on, just really being on the now. And then there's incredible scientific evidence that shows that just that simple practice of coming into the now does incredible things for your well-being. In fact, over 1,300 studies support mindfulness at this point, right? But that's exactly what you're talking about. You just made me realize that you just gave me ammo and what to tell someone the next time someone tells me I work too hard or I need more balance in my life. Thank you. That was a massive mind shift.
My pleasure. And there are creative ways that you can do this, or there are creative ways that I've done this. For example, I make sure to travel during the school year. I couldn't take the kids with me, but on the summer, I always took my kids with me on business trips, and I would build in margins where in between the business trip, I'd have a half a week off or a week off with the family. So we'd go somewhere, family would do what they needed to do, I would work, then we'd have 4 or 5 days together. I'd be completely immersed with the family, then 2, 3, 4 days with business, and then 4 or 5 days completely immersed with the family. And so the kids felt that I was fully present, even though I wasn't actually present during several of those days. I have a lake house up in the mountains, and I always do business trips up there where I bring my employees for several days at a time, and then take a week with the family.
Right.
And then I may work for a few days and then take a couple of days with the family. And they're up there for all of that. And of course, evenings I'm off and I try to be fully present. And so there's ways to integrate work and family to create harmony rather than try to do this balance thing. I wrote my first book. Here, just one more thing.
Sure.
I wrote my first book from midnight till 7 in the morning. I did it about once a week, where I would work all night long, because I didn't want the kids. I didn't want to come home and then say to the kids, "Look, I'm sorry, I can't hang with you. You know, I need to work on this book." So I'd usually start around 11 or 12. I'd put the kids to bed. I'd put the wife to bed, and then I would start writing, usually once a week. When I finished my book, my oldest daughter, the book was printed. My oldest daughter looked at me and she said, "You wrote a book? When did you write a book?" She had no idea. I was up all night writing a book. And that was one of the ways that I created harmony, to rather than take away time from the family.
Wow, that's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story. And if I can share a technique I use, a system I use to make sure I'm fully present with my kids. So I have a 7-year-old son, and I come back from work. It's about 7:30, and Hayden has to be in bed by 9 so he can wake up in time for school. So I have limited time with him, by the time I change and have dinner. But what I try to do is, before I tuck him into bed, and I always put him to bed, my wife puts our 2-year-old daughter to bed, I put him to bed, I always do a little game with him. And I ask him, "Hayden, what do you love about yourself today?" And then he will answer. And most of the time, because he's a child, he doesn't know how to answer. So I'll tell him what I love about himself. And I'll dig up and think about something that I noticed about him that was special in that last 1 hour we had. And so in that 1 hour that I'm spending with my kid, I'm constantly focused on him. I'm paying attention to funny comments he makes. I'm paying attention to how he eats. I'm paying attention to the questions he asks, because I know I'm going to have to come up with something 1 hour from now when I tuck him in. But this does two things. Number one, it makes me fully present with the child. Number two, imagine as a child how great your self-esteem is going to be if every night your father confesses one thing he absolutely loves about you as he tucks you into bed.
I love that concept, Vishen. I wish I had known it 20 years ago. I would have used it.
So
it's really good.
Thank you. So let's go on now. And I really got to confess this, even to everyone listening. What you just shared is something so simple. I don't know how I never realized this. But
a lot of what I talk about is simple. It's just not easy. If it were easy, everyone would do it, and they don't. So sometimes the simple things are actually difficult to do.
True. And I realized that this whole thing about balance is a big rule in society. Rule as in bullshit rule. Harmony, such a beautiful concept. Staying in the present, beautiful concept. Let's go on to, so I'm loving the systems you're sharing, and I know that you have 3 more. So let's go on to the second one. No excuses eating. Tell us about that.
Look, that's a fairly new one for me. So about 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And it was, it was advanced enough to be a pretty serious problem if I didn't do something about it. And of course, my doctor was a urologist, and urologists are surgeons. And if you're a surgeon, you want to do surgery. If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So they want to do surgery, and he was ready to go to surgery. But he said one thing to me. He said that was really important. He said, "You don't have to make a decision immediately. You've got a few months, maybe up to 6 months before you have to do surgery. So take your time, think about what kind of surgery, or whether you want to do chemotherapy, radiation, what do you want to do?" And so I figured, okay, if I have time, I paid attention to my wife, who has always been a health fanatic, and really felt that food would make a difference in health. I mean, not just in terms of staying healthy, but helping to cure health issues that you have. I never bought it. But I figured, hey, I needed to be in a healthier place. If I'm going to do surgery, I better be in a healthier place. So I completely changed my eating. I mean, completely changed my eating. I went to organic, very no red meat, fish. I ate fish, no chicken even. Although now I do some organic chicken, but all no processed food. That was an important one. No processed food. You live in the United States. That's not easy. No processed food. All organic. No sugar. And to me, it was. People would say, "Hey, you don't miss the ice cream at all?" It's like, no, I'm good because I had, when you have cancer, it gives you religion. It's like, hallelujah. I was all in and I gave no excuses. What was interesting was I lost 45 pounds in 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was shocked. It just fell off. And I was never hungry, Vishen. I ate all the time, but I ate completely differently.
So tell
Completely
us.
differently.
So no additional exercise. No additional exercise.
No,
Of
I did do a little, but I don't do. I'm not an exercise fanatic. About a half hour a day.
I see. But you were
5 days a
always
week.
but you were always doing that, right?
No.
No,
2 days a week. So I
got it.
went from 2 to 5,
2 to 5. Okay. So
and
that was one.
and I increased it from about 20 minutes to a half hour. So not crazy. Walking, push-ups, crunches, stretching. That's it. Nothing crazy.
Now, what were the foods you removed from your diet?
If it Dr. Hyman, who's a member of TLC, he has a great phrase that I love, and this is the answer to your question. Eat food that comes off a plant, not food that is made in a plant. Love that expression.
I love
Eat,
that.
yeah.
And it's
So
so
you
easy
eat
to
food that
remember.
comes off of a plant, not food that's made in a plant. So if it's boxed, I virtually never eat it. It has to be bagged. It
Wow.
has to be, fruit, vegetables. And actually, I ate no fruit while I had cancer because it's sugar. Even though it's healthy sugar, it's still sugar, and sugar feeds cancer. So, and there was the diet is a little complicated. So we ended up actually creating a website. We're not selling anything. I don't sell services. I just put everything I did up on this website. And I should tell you, I'm cancer free.
Wow.
I never did radiation, chemotherapy, surgery. I did no invasive procedures. All I did was change what I ate. That's it. Within 9 months, I was in remission. I'll show you here. 3 months ago, I got this. This is on my desk. I've kept it on my desk. Well, actually, it's almost 5 months ago now. I got this. It was on my. It was mailed to me. This is a PCA3. I keep this on my desk all the time. It says negative 13. A 13 for a PCA3 is completely healthy. You're in the normal range. So I am cancer free today because I stopped eating processed foods.
Wow. Wow. Now, Ivan, and it took you 3 months to drop 45 pounds, right?
Yeah.
How long did it take you to go from diagnosed with cancer to cancer free?
Well, 9 months, and the doctor said you're in remission. Actually, what he said was, "What the hell are you doing?" That's what he said. "What the hell are you doing? I've never seen anything like this. You're in remission. Tell me what you're doing again." And he was ready to go to surgery, and that same doctor was like, "Well, you don't need to go to surgery. I'll see you back here in 9 months. I want to see how you did." I went back 9 months later, and I scored a 17. My first score would have been around 45. They didn't have a PCA3 when I did it the first time, but he said it would have been around a 45. My second one was 26, which was almost normal. My third one was 17, which was normal. And this last one was 13, which was really way in the normal range. And I never did anything. My website is misnerplan.com, MISNER plan.com. We're not selling anything. All I did, we have a Kindle book that is available on Amazon, but that's all that's up there. I just put everything I did up there so that people have a choice. And you talked about it in the beginning of our interview, constantly learning and being willing to learn and change that programming. I really think TLC did that for me because I'm a real left brain, linear thinker kind of guy, business guy. And TLC, which you and I are members of, the Transformational Leadership Council, really opened up my mind to alternative thinking, more so than before. And I think I went this direction because of the things that I learned from people like you and others about keeping an open mind. And I figured I had nothing to lose. If I had 6 months, I might as well be healthier. What I found, and here's where the no excuses eating, I was all in. I wasn't going to goof around. I wasn't going to cheat. I was all in.
So this, because I know millions of Americans are diagnosed with cancer every year. So what you're saying is going to be really interesting to a lot of the people who are listening right now. But firstly, of course, we want to state this: we're not giving you any medical advice.
Thank you very much.
Ivan is simply sharing an experience that he had that he thinks might be a good tip for everyone else. Of course, nobody can argue that staying away from processed foods is not a good thing, right? It's definitely a good thing. And again, the website is meisnerplan.com, right?
meisnerplan.com. I am not a medical doctor. I'm glad you brought that up, Vishen.
Right.
I'm
You're
not
an
a medical
entrepreneur.
doctor. I'm not telling people, and everybody's got a different experience.
Yeah.
Had the doctor said to me, "You need to go to surgery in 2 weeks," I would have done I would have gone a different direction. So you know, listen to your medical doctor. But here's my advice: you are the captain of your ship. It's your body. You need to do what resonates with you in what you proceed, and get additional opinions. More information is helpful. Go to somebody else. I'm glad that I did, and I'm glad I went the direction I did.
So I just want to go a little bit deeper because this is fascinating for me.
Yeah.
In a minute or so, in 1 minute or more,
I'll try.
Sorry, 1 minute or less. Give me an idea. What were you eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? What would your average daily meals look like?
Oh, so I didn't eat a lot of junk food, you know, like hamburgers from fast food restaurants, but I ate a lot of processed foods. So I might have a frozen, you know, those, they're like Egg McMuffins, but they're frozen.
Right.
I ate those almost every morning. I ate Lean Pockets almost every day for lunch because they were easy. Drop them in the microwave, eat it, or Lean Cuisine. You know, I'd eat that. I drank a lot of diet soda, Vishen. I drank tons of diet. So at least 4 to 8 Diet Cokes a day.
Wow.
That I would drink at least. And, you know, usually dinner was pretty healthy because my wife made dinner. But lunch, breakfast and lunch were horrible, and it was processed foods. And I ate a lot of sugar. I'd eat candy. I love peanut M&Ms or ice cream. Oh, ate a lot of ice cream.
Oh,
so
guilty of that. Ben and Jerry's. Oh my God.
yeah, but now I can have some now. But instead of every day, I'll have, you know, a little frozen yogurt once every couple months. You know, I'm not. And what's interesting is that when you step away from it, you don't crave it nearly as much. I'll tell you what I have more than anything is 70 or 80% dark chocolate. So that if you have a little bit of a taste for something sweet, dark chocolate's healthy. And if you do 70 to 80% dark chocolate, it's very healthy, and you can have, you know, a square or two. And I do that probably every other day.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I'm curious on this. What do you eat for breakfast?
So this morning I had eggs with goat cheese. I don't do any dairy. It's complex, but I don't do cattle dairy. But some goat cheese, eggs, onions, and olive oil, natural olive oil. I mean, really good olive oil, not just stuff that you get at a grocery store, because, that too is complicated. You can go to the website and see why, but we have very fresh olive oil that's dated, just so you know the crush date of the olive oil. And lemon juice. And, lemons actually alkalinize your body, which is counterintuitive.
So you squeeze a little bit of lemon juice in water when you take it?
No, lemon juice and olive oil.
Oh, lemon juice and olive oil.
On the top of the eggs. So that's what I had for breakfast this morning.
I see. Now, coffee is okay?
Not so much. Now, I've never been a coffee drinker, so it's not a big deal, but it's very carcinogenic. There are many, many chemicals in coffee. And so I don't recommend it. So I replaced Diet Coke with green tea. Green tea has cancer fighting and very healthy
I see.
attributes to it. And so I drink a lot of green tea.
What about alcohol? Is there any alcohol that we should stay away with? Any alcohol you would encourage?
Yeah. So I cut off all hard liquor overnight. Just cut it off. I did no hard liquor. I haven't had hard liquor in 3 years. I love wine.
Me
I
too.
love wine.
I'm so
And
glad you said that. But
uh,
are we
and
allowed to
and
drink wine?
I do. Yeah, I am. And when I had the cancer, the doctor said no alcohol, no wine. And I said, look, I draw the line there. I draw the line. That's the line that I'll not. And so he said, okay, you can have a glass a week. I said, no, a glass a day. I said a glass every other day. He said, okay, we'll compromise. Has to be red wine because
Hmm.
it's drier. There's not so
Right.
much sugar. So now I have a glass of red wine every day now because I'm cancer free, but no hard liquor and just red wine.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so glad you said red wine. Ivan,
Red wine's actually healthy for you in limited quantities. It's healthy for you. There was a study done in Southern California just a year or two ago watching elderly from a place called Leisure World. They came in their 50s and 60s, and there were a lot of people who lived to over 100. And one of the things that they found were the people who lived into their hundreds, most of them drank a
Right.
moderate amount of red wine or wine daily, a moderate amount, meaning a glass or two of red wine. And so there are things that are in the red wine that are actually healthy for you.
Thank you for that. I People who watch me do these interviews know that half the time I have a glass of red wine next to me. I
Yeah.
just love red wine. I just discovered port wine, which is another whole other level as well. But
Well, that's high in
Malbec.
sugar. So
Oh, so I should be staying away from the port wine.
you should do it as a treat occasionally.
Right. Well, that's fine. I can always go back to my Malbec. Malbec is my favorite. I'm so glad wine is on the okay list. Let's
Well,
go
the
on.
next time I see you, we'll share a really good glass of red wine.
See, and today I switched it up for tea. Um,
That's what I have, green tea.
but I confess I had a glass before the interview.
Well, it's the evening for you, it's the morning for me, so I haven't had my glass yet.
Fair enough. So let's go on to the final system. And this was the one that you said at the beginning of our call that you were going to be sharing with us. It's the VCP process.
Yeah. So now we're back into my field because I'm not a health expert, but I had that health experience. Here, VCP is about it's about networking, and VCP stands for visibility, credibility, profitability. When I'm teaching people how to build their business through networking, this is the core. If you don't get this, nothing else you do will work. You have to get this. People go through these three phases. If you want to build your business through networking, you have to go through these three phases effectively. It begins with visibility. You have to first be visible in the community. People have to know who you are and what you do. Then you get to credibility, where people know who you are, they know what you do, and they know you're good at it. Then, and this is chronological, then and only then can you get to profitability, where people know who you are, they know what you do, they know you're good at it, and they're willing to pass you referrals on an ongoing reciprocal basis. What happens is the people will go from visibility right to credibility and profitability. They try to do it immediately. Where we were talking about earlier, the direct selling. Hi, Vishen, my name's Ivan. Let's do business. By the way, in one of my books, we call that premature solicitation, which you don't want to say fast 3 times; it'll
Right.
get you in trouble. But that's where people just meet each other and they want to do business, and there's no relationship. When you give a referral, you give a little bit of your reputation away. When you give a good referral, it enhances your reputation. If you give a bad referral, it hurts your reputation. And so if you want to have an ongoing relationship with people, you have to build that relationship before you start referring people. I have people all the time who meet me and they know I know somebody. They'll meet me and they'll say, hey, will you introduce me to like Richard Branson or to somebody that I know? And I'm like, I don't even know you. We're not even in visibility. And and you're trying to treat the relationship as though we're at profitability. If you don't get this right, networking becomes transactional. Networking should be relational, not transactional. And it's when it's transactional that people feel like they need a shower after they've gone to a networking event because it's been transactional.
I've been to some of those. I like that VCP. So you start with visibility, you go on to credibility, and you go on to profitability. Now,
Right.
can we, because that sounds really important, but we went through it a little bit fast. Could you just break it down again?
Yeah.
Visibility, credibility, profitability.
So visibility is where people they start to know who you are. You're not even at visibility when you go to some meeting, and you may see someone and you go, "Gosh, I know that person, but I don't. What is their name? What is it they do?" You're not even at visibility. You're at visibility when someone sees you and, "Oh, there's Vishen. How you doing? Good to see you again." You know that person. You know what they do. You know a
Right.
little bit about them. You're at credibility when people know who you are, they know what you do, and they know you're good at it. Now, they may know you're good at it because they've heard other people talk. They may have seen you do business. They may have seen you operate. It's one of the reasons why we say you want to be active in your network. Volunteer to be something in your network where you're seen regularly and people can observe you working, because if they observe you working, they know you're good at it, and you establish credibility. So credibility is where they know you are good at what you do. Profitability is where people are now referring business to you. Now, this is important. People think that this is a sales process. It's not. It's a referral process. So I'll ask people, where are you with your own clients? Are you at, we'll assume you're past visibility. Are you at credibility or profitability? And most people say, well, I'm at profitability with my own clients. Now I ask them this. Do the majority of your clients give you referrals, regular referrals? And they'll say, well, no. Then you're not at profitability with your clients, because this is a referral process, not a sales process. So you're at profitability with people who are referring you with some regularity. And getting to profitability takes time. And the only people who are going to give you referrals on a regular basis are people who know you're credible. And that's why you have to go through that
I
whole
see.
process.
I see. Now, there was a final thing before we wrapped up, and you said collaboration. You were going to talk about collaboration.
Well, the only way you can get to credibility and profitability is through collaboration. And it takes us back really to that model of reality that I think collaboration is the key to success in networking. And I believe in this philosophy of giver's gain, this idea that if I help you, you'll help me, and we'll all do better as a result of that. And collaboration is the glue that holds a network together. And it has to be a relational collaboration. Transactional networking is, a good friend of mine calls it coin-operated networking. I'm going to put the coin in, give me the money. Give me the candy. Give me whatever it is. I'm going to put the coin in, give me the candy. Whereas relational is, let me help you out. And I hope this works for you. And you give freely. And by giving freely, it has always come back to me. It may not even come back from you. It may come back because you talked to someone else about me. And that other person says, you know what, I've heard about you. I've heard about what you do. Vishen told me about it. Let's talk. And I may end up doing business with this other person because of something you said. It's, what goes around comes around. And that's what collaboration is all about.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ivan. Those are some really incredible models of reality, some really powerful systems. I'm so glad red wine is approved. And
Me too.
there were so many highlights from this conversation. Okay, so I want to recap for the benefit of everyone hearing, so
Sure.
these sink in as well. We learned about how there's no real true secret to success. It's really about the uncommon application of common knowledge. That was a big one. It's going to be a big one for a lot of people. I love the tips on networking. And as you were saying that, I was making so many notes about how I could improve my networking ability. I love the whole conversation on food. I'm going to start switching up my chocolate to 70% dark chocolate, and I'm going to get rid of my recent fascination with port wine, thanks to you. My highlight my highlight.
If you're healthy, you can have a little.
But I'll just stay with the red wine. I don't want to develop a new habit that
Yeah.
is that leads me to something sugary. But my favorite, and which is unusual because we only spoke about this for like 5 minutes, is the system of recognizing the difference between harmony and balance. That has actually helped me also clear up so much guilt I had about working too hard. So thank you for that. So Ivan, thank you for a wonderful conversation. The thousands of people listening, I know they gained a ton from this. It was wonderful talking to you.
My pleasure. Thank you.